As I told you previously, we are going to be using JavaScript for front-end, back-end, as well as the database. Now, at companies, are they only going to be using JavaScript? JavaScript is the prerequisite. But in majority of the companies, in a lot of companies, chances are they are going to be using JavaScript plus some additional technologies that are available with JavaScript. To name a few, for the front end, there's something called as the React.js. Now, React is from Facebook. There is Angular.js. That is from Google. A company for their front end might not only be using JavaScript. They might be using React or Angular. It could be a combination of both. It could be both, or it could be none. But you need to keep in mind that predominantly when companies say that we are hiring React.js developers, where does React fit into this entire ecosystem of JavaScript? It is primarily your front end. It's what the user gets to see. The same thing happens with Angular also. There is another very popular one, which is gaining a popularity. It's not very popular, but it's kind of gaining popularity. It's called as the Vue.js. That is also for the front end. And there are many available out there. We are only going to be introducing the ones that are popular. And chances are you might end up with a job on any of these technologies. When it comes to the server side, executing JavaScript on the server is not going to be done, is not going to happen just like that. Because you need to keep in mind that to execute JavaScript, you need to have JavaScript interpreters built in. And we have learned that browsers already have the JavaScript interpreters. For example, Chrome has something called as the V8 engine. Now, Firefox has something called as the Spider Monkey. Now, these are all the JavaScript interpreters. Any code that we write, it has to get interpreted and it'll get executed line by line. So what happens is, to execute JavaScript outside the browser, we know that we use Node.js or we install Node.js, and Node.js has the JavaScript interpreter built inside it. That's the reason why we are able to execute JavaScript even outside the browser, something like a server, with the help of Node.js. If I do not have Node.js, then we cannot be running JavaScript outside the browser. We are able to run JavaScript outside the browser with the help of Node.js because Node.js has the V8 engine or the V8 interpreter built into it, plus some very important libraries about which you'll be learning in the future. Along with that, when you're working server side, you're also going to be learning, or you're supposed to be working on frameworks called as Express. Like how you have React for frontend, Angular for frontend, or Vue.js for frontend, there is Express.js, there is Sales.js, there is Feathers.js. There are many available to you, but the most prominent one happens to be Express.js. So you would have Node installed. Node already has the V8 engine. Plus, on top of that, you will be having Express. So this is still going to be running to you on your server. And then finally, at the database, you're going to be using something like MongoDB. MongoDB is going to be the database. It's a NoSQL database which uses JavaScript as its choice. If you want to interact with it, perform queries, you're going to be using the JS language. You must have heard about these terms in the past. You must have heard about mean. Become a mean stack developer, or we are hiring mean stack developers. Or MERN. We are hiring MERN stack developers. Or the new one, Maven. What are they basically saying? They're saying that we expect the developer to know MongoDB. What is MongoDB? MongoDB is the database. E is Express.js, which is again going to be running to you on your server. Either A, which is Angular, or R, which is React, or V, that is Vue.js. Now keep in mind, when you're starting off your career, you're not expected to know React and Angular and Vue.js. You're probably expected to know React or Angular or Vue. But when you start growing in your career, and if you want to have a very strong foot in the field of IT, you'll always have to keep learning new things. And one thing you have to learn and keep in mind is, if you learn one certain technology, picking up another one is not going to be very hard. It is doable. And for all of this, the base happens to become JavaScript. That is the reason why they will evaluate you first thoroughly on your JavaScript skills, and then they will have evaluations on any of these other things like Mongo or React or Node. Your initial rounds of interviews are all primarily focused on JavaScript, irrespective of whether you're a fresher or you're a senior developer. Because what the company wants to know is, does the candidate have a strong foundation of JavaScript? Because they might put you to work on any of these areas, be it the browser level front end, be it the server side or the database side. Or it could be a combination, or it could be a collection of all of them. That is where full stack developers. Who's a full stack developer? A full stack developer is someone who knows how to work with front end, how to work with back end, how to work with database. If somebody is doing only the front end work, they're known as a front end developer. Somebody who's doing only the server side coding, they're known as a they're known as a back end developer. And if they're doing database, they are known as a database developer. But if somebody does front end, back end, database, it is going to be known as, he or she is going to be known as a full stack developer, right? Now you might be wondering, where does HTML and CSS fit into all of this? Definitely HTML and CSS becomes the base, because HTML gives you the structure, CSS provides the styling to you. So that is still going to be front end. So at the end of the day, along with JavaScript, its inner workings and the technologies, you will also need to know HTML and CSS. If you are doing front end or full stack, irrespective, you will need to know both, so that you can focus on designing the web pages. Now, should it be necessary that we know all? The advantage of somebody who knows how to do full stack applications is they have complete clarity as to what and how an application is built and how an application works. They're able to take a requirement, convert that to code quite easily. There will be times people want to just focus on front end, but again, there's always going to be a limitation. You cannot go beyond a certain point, because as you know, anything with a real world application, you need to have your database. That's where the data is going to be stored. So for that, you will need to know backend. Now, does it mean that I cannot be a front end developer? Definitely, you can be a front end developer, but there will be somebody else within the company who would be a backend developer. You'll have to interact with them, coordinate with them, and then get the work done. But if you have the entire skills, you can be a person who can build an entire project all by himself or all by herself. Right? Cool. So what I want you to do is, the action plan for this particular video is, I want you to kind of take down this particular diagram, which has the front end, back end, and the database. Have a copy of it stuck in front of your laptop, or in front of or in a wall in your room, because you are going to be coming back and looking at this particular diagram for a very long time to come, to have that let that picture kind of embed inside your mind. Okay, that's the action plan. And what I want you to do is, once you take down this particular diagram, write it. You can probably take a printout of it, or you can sketch it out. I want you to take a pic and add it in the comments below. It could be where you have stuck it. It's either on your laptop or on your wall, or you've written